Yeah, this Red Sox hat is a little bit on the tight side. I haven't had time to clean up, obviously. So, got to do the more shady look for a moment. Oh, no, it's definitely, I mean, I can see it. It's like kind of crazy. We'll get started in a minute. I can't imagine there's a lot of people up right now, but I had weird travel today, flew into Richmond, drove over. Obviously, some of you guys saw my tweet and post about the weird hotel situation. So, greetings and appreciate everyone jumping on late. And obviously, a lot of people watch this later too. So, voice is still a little sketchy. Still getting over being sick. So, doing the best I can here. I'm going to jump through the online questions first and talk about Georgia Tech's big win over Virginia, and then we'll get into the other one, the upcoming Clemson game a little bit too, because I'm sure it's kind of on everyone's mind. So let me get into the questions here. Sorry, I'm a little thrown off. It's been a long day and not very restful with the racetrack next door. There we go. Did you not? First question is about my travel plans. So yes, you can. It's hard to fly into Charlottesville, first of all. So, you can, for basketball and other things, I can fly into Charlottesville. It's very expensive, and so I typically don't stay there. I think the only time I've stayed there for a football game is when I stay with my best friend, who was one of my best friends from college, who was the local radio guy there at the time, who since moved out of the business. But there's just I'd rather stay in Richmond or DC or whatever. And this time I chose to fly to Richmond and stayed in some place outside of Richmond instead of just flying to DC and driving the extra 30 minutes or whatever. So yeah, that was probably unwise on my part. Assuming we don't tank and go 0-3 instead and win at least one more to go bowling, does that shake some of the donors into giving more? I hope so, because they need to retain the core of the roster. I think people are starting to be impressed with what the job Brent's done. Obviously, it's hard. You lost those two kind of sandwich games with Bowling Green and Boston College. You could be having a really tremendous season right now if you'd won those games. But I'd also argue that I think they learned a lot from that. And so, yeah, I mean, there's the money, the fundraising things going on. So it's funny when the game was in hand, J-Bat was sitting behind me for a lot of the game, and he got up to leave. And I spun my chair around, and I was like, "Hey," I was like, "It's a good time to launch your competitive drive, isn't it?" And he just kind of smiled and winked at me, and I was like, "Yeah, they're trying to raise money. Jay's trying to raise NIL money. He's telling people to pour NIL money into the football program, and then they're doing the competitive drive thing, which will be the counterpoint to the donation money they're going to lose by people funneling their donation money more towards NIL. It's a trade-off, but with the match, you're basically being able to get the school to match money. So it makes a lot of sense to function it that way, that the school is willing to do the competitive match. So I think it's a really cool deal. It'll be interesting to see how they do with it this time around. What's your thoughts on the matchup versus Clemson? It feels like a team with better talent, but a favorable matchup. You got to stop their running game. This game's going to be very simple for Georgia Tech. If you can stop Clemson's running game, then you have an opportunity to play with them. If you make Cade Klubnik try to beat you, that's your best shot. Now, maybe he does. He is a talented guy. He has not played well this year, but he's not he was one of the top quarterbacks in the country as a high school recruit for a reason. There's a reason why he beat guys out for that job. Like, I think that you want him to be the guy to beat you, right? They've had trouble with their skill guys and on the edges and all that stuff. You don't want Phil Maffa and Will Shipley to beat you. And Phil Maffa went off in that last game. That's why they beat Notre Dame. And then Sam Hartman, reverted to his form of Wake Forest play against against Clemson. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to glean out of that Notre Dame game. I've not been real sure about Notre Dame all year. So, I don't know. I don't know I haven't started digging into Clemson yet. So I don't know I watched some of that game. So I can't even tell you who's hurt, who's not playing. I know Clemson has a bunch of different injuries too, like everyone does at this point in the season. So I'll probably find out more later in the week as I start to talk to people about that. Not a super serious question, but something was off with the kickoff game. It seemed like we had a lot of kicks returned from the 10 or 15. I counted at least 3 returns that didn't start in the end zone. I know we can't expect automatic touchbacks, but it seemed like the kickoffs were shorter than normal. Well, they used 2 different kickoff guys. They used Aiden Burr was the kickoff guy to start the game because he swapped in for Gavin Stewart when Gavin Stewart was struggling in the North Carolina game the previous week, and then they switched back in the Virginia game, and Gavin Stewart hit a couple into the end zone. It could be tired legs. We haven't really dug into that too deeply with Brent, about the kickoff guys. If you watch most teams, most everyone, there's a handful that have guys that hit it every time out, but that's not the norm per se. Considering the success of the offense this season, do you think we're at risk of losing any staff? This is the most Georgia Tech question ever. Losing any staff on that side of the ball, specifically Buster Faulkner, Chris Winkie, G. Wade, other opportunities. Maybe. I mean, you can't coach in fear of losing guys. This is the thing that drives me the most nuts about Georgia Tech fans. If you have guys who get other jobs, then you replace them with equally talented people that are seeing the opportunity that you've created by showcasing that this dude's really talented. Buster Faulkner's done a good job. He's also had some games that weren't so great. My advice to Buster Faulkner would be put together 2 good years, and you're going to elevate your jump off job to something like Alabama and not whatever, a marginal P5 jump up would be from Georgia Tech. So I think that, you guys got to stop worrying about this stuff. Yes, someone could, any coach could leave for another job at any given time, right? This isn't Paul Johnson. They're not running a system that's unique, that's going to yield, a handful of coaches leaving periodically. There's going to be movement. That's what every team in the country deals with, except for maybe Clemson. Because there's so much nepotism in their program that they just promote guys from within, particularly in that program. But it's yes, there's some money. Yes, you maybe not going to pay some dude $2 million to be your OC or whatever, but most teams aren't. If I'm put it to you this way, if I'm Buster Faulkner or Chris Winkie or Jeep Wade, and I have a really strong staff, and I have this group of people that are ready to go, why am I going to walk away from that when I have a chance to have a special offense with a guy that's probably going to be in his senior year in Haynes King? Why would I walk away from that? And go and Buster's an ambitious guy, sure, but I think he's also a smart guy, and he's had some situations blow up on him in the past. So I think you got to just understand, yes, there's going to be people coming after guys, but the story I will tell you most right now is I think one of the first people that Brent Key spoke to when he was starting to look at offensive coordinators is Sean Lewis, who's the now demoted. He was the hot offensive coordinator target for everybody last offseason, right? So everyone went after Sean Lewis. Deion Sanders signs him. the freaking guy's like demoted behind an NFL guy who also did a crappy job of calling plays. If you watch that game, like I did last night or the other night, so um, just like you don't know, like there's nothing, like there's not a ton of, like Brent Venables is an X factor coach. Like clearly that was an X factor for Clemson, right? There's only so many of those dudes. There's a lot of guys who can call good offensive ball. There's a lot of guys who can call okay defense. And this is an era where okay defense is what you're looking for. So I don't see like getting so caught up in one person or another. What impressed you most about Georgia Tech's throttling at UVA? I just thought like once they settle down, it seemed this is a very common trend and most of the games this season. The first couple drives are a little shaky, and then on both sides of the ball, and then they settle down and start playing. Um, you know, it's just going to be an interesting with that Virginia thing. It was just interesting to see how they settled in and they started playing football and just gain more confidence. And they're going to have, you know, situations where they're tough play. You're playing a quarterback he's like, you know, a walking big play for either team. And Calandria, like the backup quarterback, he was actually the guy I was most concerned about them playing, and because he's very similar to the guy at BC, and they played him well, and they kept Malik Washington in front of them, which I think was the right strategy there. KJ Wallace played a really good game going against a really tough slot guy. To me that was what impressed me the most was that they played like complementary football, something Rick Key always talks about, like, have your, each side of your ball doing their jobs, creating negative plays, getting off the field, making the punt, creating turnovers, the offense moving the ball, scoring it, and moving the ball in different ways, right? Because you have the long touchdown pass to Eric Singleton, you have, some long run plays where you score. They had a couple grinded out drives. I thought all that was impressive. So I liked that it was like they played well, pretty soundly. The offensive player of the game for me, probably Haynes King. I think Haynes had a pretty good game. He had one bad throw, and I think he managed the game well. He had a couple off throws where like he missed. He missed a pass to Dylan Leonard that should have been a big play, and he had maybe one other one that he didn't throw quite on, but I think he did a good job. Defensively, who would be my player of the game? Probably Miles Sims. I thought Miles Sims played a well-of game. Intercepted ball, like with his sheer effort play. He was really tackling his butt off, played physical. Amari Harvey gets hurt and Kenan Johnson, and they kind of let him roll more. And I thought he did a good job. They were trying to start to manage those guys' reps a little bit more and mix in Kenan and mix in Rod Shelley. And I thought he did a good job. Special teams player of the game. I'll go with David Shanahan because he put 3 punts inside the 20, and I thought he did a good job with his punts. Seemed like we had less D alignment pre-snap chaos. Are you aware of any play call changes that we made, or result of Shearer being there more? I think there were a lot of stuff that was going on with North Carolina because of Drake May and that, and I think they were trying to match up. And North Carolina had a lot of weapons. Virginia had one really good weapon that you were kind of keying on, so it made it different. How many Zimas did I end up? Is Zima still even produced? I don't even know, man. Like, I think I may have had a sip of Zima in my life. So was I the only one that booked playoff tickets? That's funny. Do we know the ESPN % chance to win for the final 3 games? I have no idea. What would yours be? I would say like 25% Saturday, probably 80 something against Syracuse, and then like 15 against Georgia probably is like, if you're being real, maybe less than 15. I mean, they haven't played well in Atlanta against them in a long time. But yeah, that's the number 1 team in the country, or number 2 or 3, or whatever they are right now. Like, let's be real. There's a big jump between them and where Georgia Tech is right now. So that's going to be a tough game. Clemson's still very dangerous. Like, there's a reason they're dogs in both those games. What's up, Steven? At this stage of the season, which of our players look like possible all-ACC guys? Singleton, I would think, would be all freshmen with the kid from NC State. Those two would be the wide receivers, and probably up for newcomer. Haynes King will be second or third team quarterback or whatever. I don't know if they do the third team, so he might just be honorable mention. If depends on if the North Carolina Mafia votes in Drake May or something. Going through, Weston Franklin might get like second team. The kid at Louisville will be the first team All-ACC center. Defensive guys. Jake King might get some love because of the interceptions. I don't know. That's sort of what's interesting to me about this. It's a very kind of balanced team. There's not like a lot of guys that just sort of stick out. You get something from a different guy every week, right? Like it's, even like, like Kyle Kennard's having a quiet, like good season. Like, is he going to be an All-ACC guy? I don't know, because he doesn't even start like every week. That's the funniest thing about Kyle. Like him and Kevin Harris switch out like all the time, and I think Kevin started the last two games, and then Kyle's played probably more. So, I don't know. Could the resurgence of Dante Smith be similar to St. John days in 2014? Where's the missing piece that helped the offense find second half momentum? I think that's a great comparison. I think, Lasky, they had just Zach Lasky that year, if you can't remember. Zach gets banged up during the season, and St. John, they had moved. He came in as a quarterback. They tried playing him at the slot after he couldn't really win the job at quarterback. And then he became a really good B-back and had a huge, huge, huge piece of that, 2014 special season. It was very big, especially in the Orange Bowl win. And St. John's a great dude, and love St. John. This felt more of like a turning point than a one-off close win of a ranked team. We did what we were supposed to do, imposed our will, looked like and played like the better team. Actually feel good rolling into Clemson. Am I wrong? I think it's okay to feel like you have an opportunity, right? I think it's different when you feel, as a fan, if you feel like you're entitled to something, like you're entitled to beat Clemson now because you're playing better and you beat some better teams this season, rank-wise. I don't like you got to separate those things out. And if they lose at Clemson, it's not an indictment on Brent Key or the staff or the job they're doing. Just in the same way, it's not a total validation that they beat North Carolina or Miami and lost to Bowling Green and Boston College. Like, this is a process. Brent's trying to instill what he's doing here. It is not going to be, as I say over and over again, a linear straight line to getting better. It doesn't go like this. It's like, like the stock market, right? Like it's going to move around. And so I think that you got to just understand, like, you don't know week to week. And there's things going on. The injuries are piling up right now. You got two corners pretty banged up. You have Horace Lockett, who got hurt in the last game. They're getting pretty thin on the D line. Like, I don't know. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. All right, next question. I noticed Braylon Oliver is playing more and making more of an impact, although he did go down in the UVA game. Do we know the status and whether he came back in or the status of injury? I didn't notice that he got hurt. So many guys go down during the game and there were, obviously, they're on the far sideline from me. So, like, I'm not, I have to, like, look through binoculars, which I have with me, but I'm not necessarily paying attention to that in the flow of the game. So I didn't notice Braylon got hurt, but I thought he was playing better. I thought Eford played well. I thought Tatum played well in his few snaps. Andre White's fine. I think they're okay there. Paul Maiola did not have his best game, but he had a couple mistakes that cost him a couple times on some tackles. If we ignore UVA's O-line performance against us, any sense the talent level of this grouping? I don't understand your question. Ignore any sense the talent. I don't know if you're asking me if, like, UVA's O-line's good or like Tech's D-line's better or what. I don't know. They're all like ACC level dudes. Like, no one's there's no one in the league right now that's like Duke, Ted Roof era, Carl Franks era Duke. Like there's just not a team like that in the league. Like there's there's no Vanderbilt. All right. So like everyone is capable of doing something. So like that's what it is. I watched the game Saturday and it appears the lights are coming on for some of the players on defense and how they're attacking, making plays, however, still breaking down too soon and giving up too many yards. How does Coach Shearer address this with the back seven? I don't know. I'm not a coach. Like, I'm sure he's trying to do what he can. Like, there's, limited adjustments you can make. There's limited availability of guys' health wise. There's a lot of stuff that goes into coaching at this point in the season. Right now, you're having to pull back, too. That's the other thing people don't realize. Like, you're having to pull back and protect your healthier guys. LaMiles, Clay Powley, Jay King have all had injuries this season, injuries going into the season. Things, nicks and bruises. Like, you can't just be like throwing stuff on those guys all the time. So there's a balancing act there. Like, you try to get them to do their jobs. And for the most part, I thought they played pretty well. In your and Russell opinion, what does this team need to do in the last 3 games? And hopefully a bowl game to further change some players' current decisions or thinking. Oh, like a Kylan Fox. Yeah, showing progress, man. Like showing all that stuff. So I don't know. Like every kid's so different, man. Like I can't even get into like what the thought process is. I like Colin Fox. I've gotten to know him a little bit. Like what his thought process is completely different than say Isaiah Canyon or like the North Cobb running back. Like it's just like every one of these kids is a different. Like there's no magic solution. Short of winning a national championship, there's nothing that like you snap your fingers and like suddenly, and even that doesn't work. Like Georgia's lost a bunch of recruiting battles. Like I don't know. Like there's no magic. This a little bit of magical thinking, I guess, would be a way I would put it. Like there's nothing that you can do that's going to suddenly turn things on and make all these kids want to come to Georgia Tech all of a sudden. Like it's a fight that you're fighting constantly. The way Georgia Tech has best worked is having a solid staff that continues to recruit kids and starts with them pretty young and then builds up that relationship over time traditionally. That's going to take a little more time with Brent, with a young staff, a new staff. Have we turned a corner, true or false? I don't. The proof will be in these final 3 games, right? Like if they play well, play hard, or in them, get to a bowl game, then I think everyone will think they turned a corner. Our punt block team seems like we could have got more block punts. I think we're getting better pressure. Your thoughts? Yeah, I think they're playing a little bit of a game there, like not wanting. So there's 2 things with punt block. Like if it's all about down and distance and where you are on the field and what's going on in the game. So there's times where you're not going to call it because you don't want a chance bump of the punter. And then there's times when you want that momentum play. So, they've been real close. Tyson Miguez almost got one, and then Abdul ended up getting one in the last game. So I don't know. 8-4, what bowl are we going to? If they finish 8-4, they'd probably be going to like the Citrus Bowl or something like that. Probably. I mean, like they'd be going to a pretty big time bowl because if they beat Georgia, that would dramatically increase the bowl stock and send them to probably a Florida Bowl, like a good Florida Bowl, not a crappy one. Does the men's basketball team finish 500 in ACC play? I don't know. I don't know what to think about the men's basketball team. We saw like a piece of it Wednesday, whatever that was, Tuesday. Wednesday. Against Clark Atlanta. Like there were so many dudes out that are key rotation guys that we don't know anything yet. How optimistic am I with the men's basketball team? I think they'll be fun to watch. Like I think the offense is fun to watch. I'm a little concerned about the rebounding. I thought it was like pretty poor. Defense, they were okay. I'll be curious to see how they play against teams that shoot better. So, that's the one thing for me that I'm kind of looking at. In your opinion, who has the highest upside in the football recruiting class? Let me pull it up so I can give you a good answer. Oops. I mean, my gut feeling is really like all about Aaron Philo, like the quarterback. Like, I think he's a dude. Like, he is a straight up dude, and he's going to be a big problem once he gets into the system. I think he's a guy that would be the starting quarterback at Georgia if they didn't have that kid from Buford, like, of the future. So I think they've hit there. Tajay Butler's like really good. Got to hold on to him right now. I think those two dudes have a chance to be real special. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into the chat questions here. Oh yeah, make sure you smash your like button. It helps the algorithm, I guess. I don't know. I recall you saying you don't particularly enjoy traveling to Clemson. You should be excited. This is the best chance of winning since 14. Yeah, I'm not super excited about the noon game. It kind of makes it a little more difficult, but it's better than an 8 p.m. game, I'll say. And Sunday's mom's birthday, so I got to do stuff with her, so that worked out well for me. But yeah, I just don't like. I don't. There's nothing I like about Clemson for whatever reason. Like, that town just seems really like kind of not interesting. I don't know. And no offense to people that like, everyone has an attachment to where they grew up, right? Like, I have an attachment to Athens. I grew up there. Like, and a lot of you guys hate it. And so I totally get that. And like, I'll be the first to admit that. Like, if you're from Seneca or wherever, like, you probably love that area. It's just not for me. I know the report is Eric and Haynes have no intention of leaving, but everyone has a number. Do you see a threat for either of them? Well, Haynes King can't go anywhere. I don't know how to explain this any better. The way that Haynes King would be able to transfer again would be he would have to graduate with a degree in something from Georgia Tech. And he is not working on a path that will quickly make that happen. So push that out of your head. Like, there's probably an interview you can go back and find at like the beginning of the season where we asked him about like his academic thing and what he's working on. He was pretty clear that it was not like the fastest path to getting a second undergraduate degree. He's not working on grad school or something, cranking out another degree. Eric Singleton, I don't know. I mean, Eric Singleton's shorter than I am, like, and I really like him, but that market, like, yeah, I guess Dion or someone could come in, but like, he is very talented, but like, it's this is not this. I really like Eric, but like, you guys like put too much on some of these kids, like sometimes, like thinking that they're something they're not. Like, it's like when people ask me about like the draft prospects of some dude that's like, you know, clearly going to be like an undrafted free agent type. Like, yes, he is a very good college player, or yes, whatever. We don't know what Eric Singleton is yet. I don't think he has done enough in college to warrant like Nick Saban picking up the phone and calling him, like trying to, not that those guys do that, but like, whatever, like those things. Like, I don't know. This is this era of football, man. They got money to keep kids they want to keep. Like, they could have kept theoretically they could have kept like most of the guys who've left. Let me put it to you that way. And Shipley Hurd, I have no idea. I'll have to ask my boys that cover Clemson what's going on there. The same argument against Clemson is like Reggie Ball against UGA. Fair enough. We ask questions that constantly that because we're a poverty program. Q. Your AD is not approaching like a poverty program anymore, so you got to get your mind right. Can you share why Watson's not playing? Now he's behind Shelley. Is he a transfer risk? Yeah, I think Kenyatta Watson's going to grad transfer and go somewhere else. Like, he ain't playing. He's not in the rotation. He's the fifth corner. Like, he's been the fifth corner pretty much all season, been the fourth corner. They moved Rod Shelley ahead of him. Yeah, like, read the route. Like, I don't understand people like, and this, I really like Kenya, like his dad, great people, but like no one's walking around asking me why Tyson Miguez is not playing, right? Like, no one's asking me why Billy Ward's not playing. No one's walking around asking me why, James Blackstrain's not playing, right? Like, I find it fascinating that people are so fixated on this kid because Jeff talked him up, and he is physically gifted and could play and could start, I would imagine, but they clearly don't see it that way. And you have a bunch of different people there. You have Kevin Shearer, you have Thack, you have Tillman, all these dudes. And if there was a clear difference in how Kenyatta Watson would play versus whoever, he would be in the game right now, in my opinion. And so they're not trying to lose games. They don't get anything from that. That was like what Jeff was doing. Like, so they clearly Brent would step in and say something if he thought it was weird. Like, I think there's just like a personality conflict or whatever else is going on, and that kid ain't playing, and it is what it is. Like, and I'm sure he's going to move on somewhere, and I'm sure his dad can hook him up and get him a good spot and give him an opportunity to play somewhere, and hopefully he does well. I think he's a great kid, but it's something's not jiving here. Whatever it is not really any y'all's business. Let's put it that way. Like, I've been sucked into weird conversations about the whole thing, and I thought, Miles Sims playing pretty well. Kenan Johnson's playing really well. Mari Harvey's playing really well. Rod Shelley played great the other day. Like, so I don't understand why people are clamoring for someone else to play. Like, I get so sick of these ridiculous scaredy cat transfer questions. I do too. It's a little ridiculous. Worry about that in December, man. Like, you can't worry about. It's like walking around worrying that your wife's going to cheat on you like every day. Like, what does that like say about you as a person? Like, have some faith in like these kids, they'll make good decisions, and like there's enough evidence now. Brent can pull up. This is things I show you guys all the time. Like, these dudes aren't, a lot of them aren't playing where they went. Amari and Brown doesn't play like, or doesn't have production. Like Nate McCollum, I don't think he's had a lot of production. He might have played a lot in the Campbell game, but like, um, some of the guys have done well. Jared Ivey's done well. Jordan Dominic to an extent has. He's mostly like kind of a third down pass rusher since he left Georgia Tech instead of an every down guy. But like, Z's done okay. Like, but most of them are what they are, man. Like, and so you could do it here, you could do it somewhere else. Like, even if you talk about like say Zach Brown wants to get a Georgia Tech degree. I think that situation's a pretty good one for him right now to sit behind Haynes and bide his time a little bit and then compete with, the young guys that are coming in and have his opportunity in, a year or so or a year plus. So you just got, every situation is different, man. Like, these kids are going to have to be smarter about these things too. Like, just jumping to jump is not going to be helpful. Is there anything you can differentiate, whether it's practice, the week, pregame mannerisms with Hayne King when he's good? Haynes, UNC UVA versus mediocre-ish Haynes, Bowling Green BC. I didn't think he played. Did he play bad in the Bowling Green game? I don't know. I'm trying to remember which one. One of those two games he did play poorly. Maybe it was a Bowling Green game. I mean, maybe it was a BC game. I thought he was okay in Bowling Green. Maybe he wasn't. I don't remember. He just turned the ball over. I think that's what you're getting at. Yeah, he makes bad decisions sometimes. He forces the ball sometimes. He doesn't run when he should run. He tries to, and there was a play in the last game where he probably should have run the football and he was able to bullet it into it was Dante, get a first down. He wants to throw the football and doesn't clearly doesn't love running the football, like, and that's fine. Like, most quarterbacks want to throw the football, like they're not looking to run. So I get it. He's just got to make better decisions. I think that'll come as he gets more reps. People also are acting like Haynes King has played, 800 snaps of college football before this year. He hasn't. This is the most he's ever played by a wide margin. He played, 3-4 games last year. He played one game plus one the year before that. So like, he played one game plus 6 snaps or whatever it was the year before that. So like, he has like, it was like I said, going into the quarterback battle, right? He had more time in college, but he was 200 snaps plus or something on Zach Pyron. Like that was it. Like there wasn't even a huge. So he's still learning, man. Like you gotta. There's gonna be some growth, and they're learning. Buster's learning what works with him, what works with this line, what works with the personnel packages. And then they didn't have a run game for time, a certain amount of time too, and that impacted everything. Now they have a run game that really changes things quite a bit, or a run game that's more productive. Eford has been a hard hitter out of nowhere. What happened there? I think Eford's getting more comfortable with the more snaps he gets. He has been a guy that's, he's not going to be like the greatest guy going covering somebody, but he's a downhill linebacker and he plays well if you keep it simple for him and this is what we're going to do and this is what I want you to do. He can go out and execute your game plan. And I think it's been great to see kind of his emergence at that Mike linebacker spot and him starting to show some real signs of getting better each week. And, hopefully some of the other pieces come with it. He's not going to be a guy that's going to wow you with his physical gifts, but he hits hard, he plays hard, and I think he's played better. And when him and Paul are locked in and playing well, or him and Tatum or whatever, like they're a much better defense. And if they can find some way to get those guys to be consistent, that could be the big difference down the stretch if those guys play better. Clearly, QB run game was a point of emphasis in the past few weeks and is paying dividends. As to another factor, what the defense has to prepare for. I didn't read that well. Passing game was always pretty much there earlier on. Yeah, I think that, when you run RPOs, the quarterback's got to run it sometimes. And it was funny, man. There were a couple times he kept it where he was untouched, like, scoring the football because they were so much over pursuit of the running back that those plays are wide open, man. You watch Jalen Milroe and Jaden Daniels do that in that game Saturday night, the LSU Alabama game. Like that RPO stuff is nasty. And Haynes is not as like dynamic runners either, those guys, but like if you just run okay, like Drake May shown it, like if you can run okay and run those things, like it is really dangerous because it's hard to defend, right? You're covering routes, and then you got to worry about the run game and the long handoff, and that's what made Wake so good with Sam Hartman. Sam Hartman couldn't run for crap. Like he's not a fast runner, but like that long mesh worked really well. He was very effective with it. So like, I think there's some good stuff there. I do think they've learned how to win. Yeah, I mean, winning takes time to learn how to win. This was something that Jeff used to talk about, but it's true. It's an old coach adage, but it's true. Like you have to learn how to win and have confidence that things aren't going to fall apart when you have a negative outcome in, say, a series, right? Like, and you don't let things snowball on you. The thing that has always kind of worked against them is something bad will happen and then it snowballs on them. That happened in the Louisville game. It happened in the Ole Miss game. And really in the Bowling Green game too. I think the Boston College game was a little bit different. And so when those things snowball on you, you can't let it keep you down. But yeah, they should definitely go into Clemson expecting to have an opportunity to win. I mean, they almost beat them twice with really not great teams the last 2 years. Should have beat them the last 2 years. So, that game up at Clemson sticks out in my mind so much. Like the last time they were up there with the 14-8 game or whatever it was, like they should have won that game. Like they got screwed on a call and then couldn't get into the end zone. Like they definitely owe Clemson one. I just don't know if they're going to get it or not. All right. Let's see. How excited am I to see the basketball game tomorrow? Yeah, I want to see how they play with like the lights on and it counts, right? Because Damon was definitely not running a lot in that game against Clark Atlanta. They just sort of like dared them to shoot threes, and we're kind of just playing. So I'll be curious to see what that looks like. For Someone asking about Eric Singleton. I wasn't saying that he's not talented. I just don't understand why everyone thinks that like everyone in the country is going to covet, the him like he's Calvin Johnson. He's not. Like he's a great receiver, but he's not that yet. He may develop into that, but he's still got a long way to go. He dropped 2 balls on Saturday that were easy catches. Like there's a lot to like there, and there's a lot to love, and he's got a long way to go still to get to where he needs to get to, and a lot of great football ahead of him. What do you think of the ACC's future scheduling regarding rivals? It seems like Tech always gets the short end of the stick. We won't even play Clemson every single year from here out. That was a choice. Like Jay Bad and them were like, we don't need to have a permanent rival, and we don't want to play Clemson every year. We don't have to. And so they're not. Like if they had pushed that issue, I'm fairly certain that rivalry would have stuck. They'd be playing Clemson every year. Georgia Tech said, no, we're good. And I agree with that. I think that you're scheduling yourself into losses in some ways if you're playing a harder schedule than your competition. And this is one of the things that's pissed me off about like the ACC scheduling model for a long time. And they had to like push Duke into some of these other teams and Wake into scheduling harder actually, because they weren't even playing 2 not like P5 games. They were playing like, a MAC school and like a Sunbelt school and then an FCS school. And maybe they'd play like Vanderbilt or something. So like when people complain about like those schools doing well, right? Like go look at who Duke has played in their non-conference schedule the last 10 years. Like, other than the series they had with Alabama, they've played nobody. And the Notre Dame games have been scheduled by the league. So you're walking in, you're playing, Clemson, you're getting Notre Dame every couple of years, you're playing Georgia every year. That's a little bit crazy. Like when you're also going to start mixing in Florida State more and mixing in whoever else, like the schedule is not set up well for Georgia Tech to do well. And so I like the idea of them playing a more wide open schedule. I don't know. James Blackstrain did his knee again, did his knee in high school, did it again. He's been slowly coming back. He got injured at the end of last season. So he's just about a year out, I guess, maybe. I don't know when he had surgery, but maybe it was later than that. But he's, they're dressing him. He traveled to Virginia. So he's close. He's like good enough that they moved DJ Moore over for now to play corner. So they feel okay with it. Oh boy, Jeff Collins question. Well, GC3, man, that's what we call him. Get another chance in college football as he burned all his bridges. He could get a DC job. No one's going to hire him to be a head coach right now. He couldn't. Jeff couldn't get the job at. This is a story I probably never told, but like Jeff tried to get many, many years ago, tried to get the head coaching job at Western Carolina, and got like laughed out of the room there. Like a lot of people don't like him, and there's people who do like him, but like he is not considered like some great football mastermind. That if he was, he would be employed. He'd be employed in the NFL. Let's be honest. I think he has enough examples of guys leaving where he can show them grass isn't always greener 100%. Nate had 0 receptions against Campbell. Okay. Got it. How about the 24 schedule? FSU home game in Dublin. You got to hope there that the magic of playing a weird game like that helps. And also, they're going to lose a lot. They're going to lose Jordan Travis. They'll probably lose the receivers. I don't know what Trey Benson, what year he is. Like they're going to lose a lot off this team, so it's going to be real interesting to see what Florida State looks like next year. You got Notre Dame and the Benz. They're not. Yeah, like I said, they're not making it easy on Brent or whoever has a shot. They make it easy on Jeff. Didn't make it easy on Paul. Like the scheduling's hard. Any info on the clock management improvements with Key in the last 2 games? So you just learn more from his mistakes. Or listening to, I think you're talking about Don Ely. I think Brent studies this stuff, man. Like he wants to be good. He attacks coaching like a Georgia Tech dude would. It's a problem. He's trying to figure out how to solve. He's trying to fix his shortcomings in different areas. Like, when he first started doing like media with us, like we would talk about it sometimes, like just what was going on with his media stuff. Like he wants to be good at his job. And so I think he absorbs all this information and tries to improve himself. And I think he's learned. And the one thing that I didn't love, which was them trying to draw them off sides or whatever, and then timeout, punt. They did that I think twice in the game. I hate that. Like, just punt the ball or go for it. Like, don't unless it's like 4th and 3. Don't try to freeze play or don't line up like you're going to do something and waste a timeout. Could you talk to some about the current freshmen who you see contributing next year? Is there anyone from the freshman class that can improve the defense? They really like Jacob Cruz. He's playing now just on special teams. He actually got, I think, his first defensive snap in the last game. Gabe Fortson, they think, is like the heir apparent for Weston when Weston's done. Weston's still got one more year. But they love Gabe Fortson, like very, very big on him. He got to play his first snaps on Saturday at Virginia. They like Zion Taylor. They like Bailey Stockton, the slot receiver. Patrick Screws, the young right tackle, they're really big on. Who else? Those would be the main ones off the top of my head. Shameik Jones, real big on him too. Like he is a giant human being. So yeah. Do you believe Shearer will remain as the DC after the season, at least based off the post BG games so far? I think that Kevin has a very decent shot at remaining the defensive coordinator. This reminds me a little bit of the Charles Kelly thing where Paul should have just kept Charles Kelly as a DC. And I think Brent is a little smarter than that. And him and Kevin are very close. So, like, I think there's a strong possibility that Kevin keeps the DC jobs. Not enough weights on the sideline. That's awesome. Nobody even knew who Kilo Stone was, and he got poached. No players safe. They could have. They decided not to get too inside baseball. They made the decision not to match a Kilo Stone's offer. That was a decision. They could have easily matched a Kilo Stone offer, kept him. I think VT would have been a good rival to have. Sure, I don't know. How's Leo? Leo traveled to Virginia. He's been traveling. I assume they'll make a decision here, in the next week or two, like whether to play him or not. My assumption is they won't play him now, but I could be wrong. That's just a guess. When will we see J-Bat's non-conference philosophy start to play out? Any idea how he feels about lightening our strength of schedule? Nope. All that stuff's, they're booked out till 27. Is that right? Let me look at the future schedule here. So yeah, next year, Georgia State, VMI, Notre Dame, Georgia. 25 at Colorado, Gardner-Webb, Temple, Georgia. 26 booked out, Colorado at Georgia State, which you guys will love, at Georgia, and then at Stanford and ACC, which will be fun. 27. So the first openings are like 2028 for Jay to do anything, so it's a little bit off. Somebody asked about I don't want to talk about that kid that got dropped that's at Kennesaw State now, from Brookwood. You can Google that crap. I'm not getting into that on a YouTube video. 15-point spread for Clemson seems a little high to me, but if they're going to win that game, I think you got to have a big game from. You probably need a big game from Haynes King, and you need a big game from at least one of the linebackers on defense. Doesn't sound like the freshman class has the best potential. We have no idea, dude. It's like those kids have been on campus for what, 6 months? Like you can't judge, when you judge that freshman class, the 2023 class, in the fall of 2025 would be the first time you'd start to think about it. And really the fall of 2026, who's starting? We're so far away from that. You've got to put that out of your mind. This isn't plug and play freshmen. You don't do that. Most places don't do that. There's a couple dudes who play. If you're playing a lot of them, you're going to be losing a lot of football games. So there's no magic answer sitting there. There's not a magical linebacker like Dakari Ashley is going to suddenly turn into Charlie Thomas. That may happen, but it's not going to happen immediately. So please put that out of your head. What do you think will be the next recruiting transfer rule thing from the NCAA? I think they should do away with the free year until you graduate, because make kids sit out again, because this is free agency. Make there be some sort of tax to it, or you can only do it if you have meet certain criteria. I don't know. What time do you think the UGA game will be? I mean, I assume it'll be noon. It's been at noon 14 of the last 16 times or something. I will assume noon. Yeah, I don't want to get into that kid's thing. You can Google who was committed. I told you what high school it was from. Just Google it, man. Not getting into whatever that kid did. That's his business. I didn't even see it at the time. So, any last questions from anybody before we jump out of here? I've done almost an hour. Jesus, I was not expecting to be on here that long. All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate you jumping on. Hopefully my voice will be back next week. And I'll talk to you guys later.